"Mommy, Uncle Rex came again," Nia chirped one Tuesday morning, her small hand meticulously stacking colorful blocks. David paused, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. "Uncle Rex?" he asked, a frown creasing his brow. "Who's Uncle Rex, sweetie?" Aisha, who was packing Nia's lunchbox, stiffened. "Oh, you know Nia, and her imagination, David," she interjected quickly, a brittle laugh escaping her lips. "She means the character from her new cartoon, honey. There's no Uncle Rex." David let it go, though a small persistent knot of unease began to form in his stomach. They had no relatives named Rex, nor any close friends. You're about to delve into a story that challenges perceptions, unravels hidden layers, and ultimately champions the unwavering spirit of justice. Join us on Engaging Voices, as we peel back the facade of a perfect life to reveal the unsettling truths beneath. David Johnson had always believed in the sanctity of their vows, a truth as immutable as the North Star. He believed in Aisha's bright eyes, in the quiet strength of her smile, in the unwavering dedication that had built their life, stone by precious stone. That truth was his anchor, the bedrock of their existence. It was the whispered promise he made to himself every morning, the silent gratitude he offered the universe for the family he held so dear. But truth, he was learning, could be a chameleon, capable of blending into the most deceptive landscapes. David felt a subtle discord in the symphony of their lives. It wasn't a sudden jarring note but a faint, almost imperceptible dissonance that began to echo through the usually harmonious halls of their home. For 7 years his marriage to Aisha had been a melody of shared dreams, laughter, and an unbreakable bond forged in mutual respect and deep affection. Their daughter, Nia, a vibrant, inquisitive 3-year-old, with eyes that held the universe's sparkle, was the perfect crescendo to their life's composition. David, a respected architect whose designs gracefully blended functionality with artistry, often found himself marveling at the beautiful life they had built in their spacious, sun-drenched home, a testament to their shared ambition and love. Aisha, a brilliant marketing executive, was his equal in drive and passion, her intellect as captivating as her warm, engaging personality. But recently, the melody had begun to falter. Aisha, usually so open and communicative, had become an island. Her phone, once left carelessly on the kitchen counter, was now a constant appendage, clutched tightly, even during Nia's bedtime stories. Hushed conversations took place behind closed doors, her voice a low murmur David couldn't quite decipher, followed by an unsettling silence whenever he approached. Her radiant smile seemed less genuine, replaced by a strained courtesy, and her eyes, once mirrors to her soul, now held a guarded, almost haunted expression. The next clue arrived innocently. David was helping Aisha reorganize her old jewelry box, a heavy mahogany chest inherited from her grandmother. Tucked deep within a velvet-lined compartment, beneath a tangle of old necklaces, he found a small, intricately carved silver locket. It was exquisite, antique, and unlike any piece Aisha usually wore. "This is beautiful, honey. Where did you get it?" he asked, holding it up. Aisha's eyes, wide with something akin to panic, darted to the locket. "Oh, that? Just an old thing," she said, snatching it from his hand, with surprising force. "A piece of junk I forgot about. It's nothing important." She quickly tucked it away, her movements agitated. David felt a prickle of suspicion. Aisha was never like this. The true, chilling realization began with Nia's art. One rainy afternoon, Nia sat on the living room floor, engrossed in a drawing. David knelt beside her. "Who are all these people, Pumpkin?" he asked, pointing to the colorful stick figures. Nia pointed to a particularly tall, angular figure, with an exaggeratedly large, dark watch drawn on its wrist. "Bad man," she stated simply, her brow furrowed. Then, pointing to another figure, smaller and tear-streaked, she added, "Mummy cried." David's blood ran cold. The figure in the drawing, with its distinctive watch, didn't resemble anyone he knew. The vividness of Nia's distress, the simple, undeniable truth in her voice, resonated far deeper than any cartoon character could. The accidents began subtly at first. A loose step on the back deck that David nearly tripped over, a nail suspiciously protruding. He dismissed it as routine wear and tear. Then, on his way to a crucial client meeting, his car's brakes felt dangerously spongy. He managed to pull over just in time, narrowly avoiding a collision with a delivery truck. The mechanic found a cut brake line, clean and precise, not a sign of corrosion or wear. "Looks like someone did this deliberately, Mr. Johnson," the mechanic had said, his eyes serious. David felt a shiver of dread. Who would want to harm him? The final, devastating blow came with his career. David was on the cusp of securing a monumental project, the revitalization of the historic Blacktown district, a community disproportionately affected by decades of urban neglect and discriminatory housing policies. It was his dream project, a chance to right historical wrongs through architecture. But suddenly, crucial digital files related to the proposal became corrupted, overwritten with gibberish. The incident threatened to derail his entire career. Aisha offered tearful condolences, but David noticed an underlying composure, a strange lack of genuine distress that gnawed at him. The pieces, disparate and disturbing, began to click into place. Uncle Rex, the locket, Nia's drawing of the bad man and a crying Aisha, the accidents, the corrupted files. David couldn't shake the image of the prominent, ruthless real estate developer, Rex Sterling, a man whose name was synonymous with controversy, racial discrimination in land acquisition, and a distinctively large, expensive watch. Sterling had recently resurfaced in the news, his company eyeing new projects on the outskirts of the very district David was hoping to revitalize. A man known for getting what he wanted by any means necessary. What David hadn't told Aisha, or anyone, was that his firm for years had been quietly compiling data on historical land dispossession and predatory real estate practices within vulnerable communities, particularly black communities. They had done pro bono work, uncovering patterns of systemic discrimination, and Rex Sterling's name had surfaced repeatedly as a major player in many of these questionable dealings from decades past. David's current Blacktown revitalization project was, in many ways, the culmination of this painstaking research, designed to use architecture as a tool for restorative justice. This unspoken background now provided a chilling connection. Sterling would know David Johnson, not just as a competing architect, but as a potential threat to his deeply buried past. Late one night, David couldn't sleep. The weight of his suspicions pressed down on him. He rose, restless, and saw a light under Aisha's study door. He found her hunched over her laptop, her face illuminated by the screen's pale glow, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. She startled, quickly snapping the laptop shut. "David, what are you doing up?" she asked, her voice thin. David simply looked at her, his eyes hollow. I can't shake this feeling, Aisha. Something is terribly wrong." His voice cracked, raw with unspoken fear. Aisha watched him, her expression a mix of pity and profound guilt. The usual placid demeanor he'd grown accustomed to was gone, replaced by a restless anxiety. He'd lost weight, his easy laughter had vanished, and a haunted look shadowed his eyes, a look Aisha saw reflected in her own furtive glances at him. She knew he was unraveling, and the sight of his pain intensified her internal torment. Later, after Aisha had finally drifted into a fitful sleep, David carefully, almost surgically, retrieved the silver locket. His fingers trembled as he clicked open its ornate clasp. Inside, nestled beneath a tiny, almost invisible glass, was a faded photograph. It showed a much younger Aisha, radiant and hopeful, standing beside a man, a tall, angular man, a man with a distinctive large watch on his wrist. Rex Sterling. David felt a nauseating lurch in his stomach. His world tilted on its axis. He recognized the younger Aisha, but the man who was undeniably Rex Sterling, was an unwelcome ghost from a past Aisha had never shared. David Mentas. He began to dig. He used old news archives, publicly available corporate records, and even discreet inquiries through his network. He found articles from nearly a decade ago, detailing a major scandal involving Rex Sterling's company, and their aggressive, often discriminatory acquisition of properties in vulnerable black communities, leading to the displacement of hundreds of families. Then he found it. A small mention of Aisha Adebayo, then Aisha Williams, a promising young architect interning at Sterling's firm during that precise period. The timeline was horrifyingly clear. Armed with the locket and his newfound knowledge, David confronted Aisha. It was a cold, tense morning. Naya was at daycare. "Aisha," he began, his voice surprisingly calm, despite the storm raging inside him. "Who is this man?" He laid the locket on the table, opened to the faded photograph. Aisha's face drained of color. Her composure, so carefully maintained, shattered. She crumpled into a chair, tears streaming down her face, a torrent of grief and fear she could no longer hold back. She looked at the locket, then at David's resolute face. I can't, David. You wouldn't understand. It's too complicated." Her voice was barely a whisper. David knelt before her, his eyes blazing with a mixture of pain and ultimatum. "Complicated?" he hissed, his voice trembling with contained fury. "Our life is built on trust, Aisha. Our daughter's future. These accidents. The sabotaged project. You think I haven't seen it? You think I haven't felt the shift in our home? Look at me, Aisha. Tell me everything. Every single detail. Or our marriage. Everything we have. Right now, it's over. Bye-bye." The last words were sharp, cutting through her resistance like a knife. The threat, stark and absolute, finally broke her. The words, when they came, were a harrowing confession. Years ago, fresh out of architecture school, brimming with talent and ambition, Aisha had been vulnerable. Rex Sterling had singled her out, promising her a fast track to success, a path often denied to young black professionals in the predominantly white, male-dominated world of high-stakes development. He had leveraged her hopes, her dreams, and ultimately her fear. He had coerced her into a twisted relationship, making her privy to, and even complicit in, some of his most heinous, discriminatory land dealings. The affair wasn't born of love, but of a terrifying sense of obligation, and a desperate struggle for survival in a system designed to keep her down, a system that routinely exploited ambition and vulnerability. The most devastating truth followed. Nia was Rex Sterling's daughter. Sterling, a man steeped in his own prejudices, had vehemently denied paternity, threatened Aisha with financial ruin, career obliteration, and the public exposure of her complicity if she ever revealed Nia's true parentage or his role in the discriminatory practices. He had promised to destroy her and everything she loved. Aisha, trapped, alone and terrified, had seen David as her salvation, a chance for a new, honest life for herself and her unborn child. She had built a fortress of lies around them, hoping to protect her family from Sterling's predatory grasp. But Rex Sterling had never truly let her go. He'd been blackmailing her for years, bleeding her dry with demands for money. His demands had grown more frequent, more desperate, as his own financial dealings faced scrutiny. And now, David's Blacktown revitalization project, with its deep dive into old land deeds and historical property records, was threatening to unearth Sterling's long-buried crimes. Sterling had made it clear David had to be out of the picture before his project exposed the truth, or he would destroy Aisha, expose Nia's paternity, and ruin David's reputation, leaving them with nothing. Aisha's desperation had driven her to the brink, believing David's demise was the only way to protect him, Nia, and the fragile peace they had built. The accidents, the sabotaged project, they were all desperate, clumsy attempts by Aisha, driven by Sterling's escalating threats, to fulfill his demands without directly harming David, hoping he'd somehow just disappear from the project and Sterling's radar. She'd cut the brake line herself, hoping it would simply scare David off the road, not kill him. She'd tampered with the files, hoping to merely delay, not destroy, his career. Each act, a desperate plea for time, a terrifying gamble with their lives. David listened, his heart aching, not just with betrayal, but with a profound understanding of Aisha's terror. He saw the systemic discrimination that had cornered her, the historical prejudice that had made her a target, and the powerful man who had exploited her vulnerabilities. His anger towards Aisha transformed into a chilling resolve against Sterling. For 3 days, a chilling silence permeated the Johnson home. David moved through the house like a ghost, his face a mask of hurt and disbelief. He ate in silence, put Mia to bed with perfunctory kisses, and slept on the sofa. Aisha's tearful apologies, her choked explanations, fell on deaf ears. He saw the depth of her regret, the genuine anguish in her eyes, but the magnitude of her deception, the sheer audacity of her plan, was a wall between them. He felt a profound sense of betrayal, of having built his life on sand. But each time Nia tugged his hand, her bright eyes innocent and full of love, a crack appeared in that wall. He watched Aisha with Nia, her devotion undeniable, and slowly, agonizingly, the image of the woman he loved began to re-emerge from the shadow of the lies. His love for her, for their daughter, a tenacious root refusing to die, began to push through the hardened earth of his anger. On the 4th day, Aisha found him staring out the window, his shoulders slumped. She approached him tentatively. "David, please, I know I broke everything, but I was so scared. Please, let us fix this." He turned, his eyes red-rimmed. He still couldn't bring himself to speak the words of full forgiveness, not yet, but he finally nodded, a slow, weary assent. "We fight him," David said, his voice firm, no longer shaken. "Together." Aisha, still trembling, looked up, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. David, drawing on his architectural precision, began to piece together a plan. They had the locket, the photo, and Nia's innocent but powerful drawing, a visual testament to Sterling's presence and Aisha's fear. David also had the corrupted project files, which now made perfect sense as Sterling's attempt to eliminate him as a threat. The ultimate confrontation was meticulously planned. David secured a meeting with Sterling under the guise of discussing a potential partnership on the Blacktown project, leveraging his recent setbacks as an opening. Sterling, arrogant and dismissive, agreed, confident he had David cornered. Aisha, though terrified, agreed to play her part, planting a hidden recording device in her purse, activated by a subtle touch. David, during the meeting, subtly guided the conversation, hinting at the old property disputes David's firm had previously researched, mentioning the name Rex in a way that prompted Sterling to reveal more than he intended. The climax arrived when Sterling, feeling confident and cornered, gloated, unwittingly confirming his blackmail, his past manipulations, and even a veiled threat against David. "You think you can dig up old bones, Johnson? Some of us have buried them so deep, they'll never see the light. And if you keep digging, you'll find yourself buried right alongside them. It's a shame, really. I always liked a man who knows his place. You didn't, did you?" He chuckled, a chilling, self-satisfied sound. Just as Sterling made his most incriminating statement, the door clicked open. Standing there, holding David's hand, was Nia. She had insisted on coming to Daddy's big meeting, having woken up early from her nap at Aisha's parents' house next door, and followed Aisha, curious, her eyes, wide and innocent, fixed on Sterling. "Bad man," she said, her small finger pointing directly at him. "Mummy cried because of Bad man. He has a big watch." She then turned to Aisha, her brow furrowed. "Mummy, are you still scared of the Bad man?" Sterling's face contorted in a mix of shock and fury, his eyes darting to Nia, then to Aisha, then back to the recording device he now noticed, blinking faintly in Aisha's purse. Realizing he was trapped, exposed by a child's innocent words and a recording, a primal rage erupted. He lunged, a menacing growl escaping his lips, aiming for Aisha's purse. But before he could even take a second step, the door burst open. Two burly plainclothes security personnel, strategically placed by David just outside the office, stormed in, quickly subduing Sterling and cuffing him. David had anticipated Sterling's violent reaction, knowing that cornering a man like him could provoke a dangerous outburst. The rapid intervention ensured no one was harmed, and the evidence was secured. The tape captured it all, including Sterling's desperate lunge. Nia's innocent words, the undeniable truth in her small voice, amplified by her question to Aisha, were the final, irrefutable pieces of the puzzle. They were the nail in Sterling's coffin. The recording, combined with David's meticulous research into Sterling's past and present activities, led to a full-scale investigation. Rex Sterling, once untouchable, faced a barrage of charges: blackmail, corporate fraud, and the re-examination of his discriminatory practices that had devastated Blacktown years ago. The evidence of his long-standing intimidation of Aisha, exposed not just by her confession but by the sheer terror in her voice on the recording, and Nia's simple statement, added further weight to the case against him. Justice, long delayed, was finally served. Aisha faced legal consequences for her involvement, but the court recognized the immense coercion and systemic pressures she had endured. The historical context of racial and gender discrimination that had made her so vulnerable to Sterling's manipulations. Her sentence was mitigated, allowing her to begin the arduous journey of rebuilding her life and her relationship with David. Their marriage was not restored to its former naive perfection, but it was forged anew in the crucible of truth and understanding, tempered by the fire of betrayal and the slow, deliberate process of healing. David stood by her side, a testament to a love that, though wounded, chose compassion over condemnation, a love strong enough to seek justice for the wronged. Nia, the brilliant, unwitting heroine, continued to illuminate their lives with her pure spirit. Her innocence had cleaved through the darkest of lies, proving that even the smallest voice can ignite the greatest revolution, and that fairness and justice, though sometimes delayed, will ultimately prevail over the deepest forms of discrimination. The Johnson family, scarred but not broken, embarked on a new chapter, committed to a future built not on the fragile facade of secrets, but on the enduring strength of honesty, fairness, and the ultimate victory of justice over discrimination. The whispers in their walls had finally been silenced, replaced by the resonant, clear sound of truth. If you were captivated by this story, and want to explore more tales of justice, resilience, and the power of truth, make sure to subscribe, follow, and turn on notifications for the Engaging Voices channel. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to life.